here. We've just, well, some of us still can't get onto the internet to get hold of the papers, but we think we've got enough computers that have got them downloaded so we can share. So thank you for your patience. We've only got one apology, which is from Councillor Thomas, who's on some well-earned annual leave, which then means that I will chair as the previous vice chair. So bear with me if I go slightly awry every now and then. I'll try and keep us on track. Minutes of the last meeting. So everyone had a chance to read through those. Any corrections, errors? No. So can I have a proposer, please, that we accept them? So Councillor Crawford and the seconder, Councillor Horsham, drawn in agreement. Thank you. Any declarations of interest on the topics that we're going to be speaking about today? No, thank you very much. I have no urgent business, and Candida said that she has none either. I don't believe we're expecting a fire practice, so if the alarm does go off, everybody evacuate. You can chase and catch up with me, but I'll be going over that way somewhere. Public participation, we have none, which brings us on to item 7, which is section 106 request from Steventon Parish Council towards the community park in Steventon. Just give me a second, I will introduce that paper. The full details of the project and funding sources are set out in the draft cabinet report in front of you today. To aid discussion, I would summarise the key elements of the matter. Steventon's neighbourhood plan identified a desire for more varied sports activities within the parish, leading Steventon Parish Council to identify a piece of parish council owned land where a small sports hall could be built. At the time, the construction cost of the hall was estimated at approximately 1.2 million. Therefore, Steventon Parish Council canvassed St Michael's Primary School as a potential partner in the scheme, and in the meantime requested any development subject to financial section 106 contributions were agreed with the sports hall in mind. In the intervening years, St Michael's Primary School decided not to pursue a partnership with Steventon Parish Council. After engaging with other existing organisations within the parish, none wanted to take on the burden of raising the required funding and, importantly, the management and maintenance of a new facility. Given the lack of interest from the school and any other organisation in Steventon, the building of a new sports hall is not considered realistic and sustainable, and the parish council consider that the Section 106 contribution money should be channelled into providing a new recreational facilities. We have obtained the necessary consent from the developers who have provided the funding for this to be used for the purpose stated in the report. A new community eco park will create a playscape that encourages physical activity, social interaction, educational opportunities, and will be considerate to the location and the environment, providing modern play facilities which will encourage a wide, diverse group of participants. A legal agreement will be put in place to govern the release of funds, and if agreed today, this decision will be taken to the council meeting on the 16th of July to approve the budget as required by the financial procedures rules. I'm happy to answer any questions from colleagues. If I can't do so, I have officers Mark Hewer and Dave Cookson online, who hopefully will be able to bail me out. I should have said up front, if it appears I'm being emotional, I'm not. It's a very heavy pollen count and I've got hay fever. So, any comments, questions on the paper? Yeah, Councillor Forster.
Yeah, and if I cop along with you, it's for the same reason. I think this is a good plan. The report is very clear in how we've got to this point. I'm sure it will have involved a certain amount of work on behalf of our officers dealing with the developers and getting their agreement to use the spending for this purpose. Steventon, like many local villages in the Vale, has been growing rapidly, and it's a struggle for the infrastructure to keep up, and it's good to see that once again the Vale is helping to ensure that some new facilities, in this case sports facilities, are in place for a rapidly growing village.
Yeah. the one thing when I was asked to look through this as the finance member, one thing that quite often will concern me is when I see things saying phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So I did ask, whilst we've been asked to provide the Section 106 funding for phase 1, did that commit us to anything for phase 2 and 3? And the answer is no, it does not. They are separate. So whilst the parish council may come back to us to ask for some support for the following phases, we, by agreeing on this, if we were to do so, don't commit ourselves to funding anything further. Okay, I think silence speaks volumes. So can we just go straight to a vote? Can I would like to propose it as the finance officer. Can I have a seconder, please? Second. Councillor Fawcett, and are we all agreed? Brilliant. Thank you. So item 8 is a similar agenda item, funding request from Drayton Parish Council towards a new multi-use games area, Mugger, at Walnut Meadow in Drayton. As with the previous item, I'll summarise the key elements of this matter. Drayton Parish Neighbourhood Plan adopted in July of 2015 identified the desire for new sports facilities within the parish. In the intervening years, Vale of Whitehall's District Council has secured developer contributions for approximately £1 million towards the provision of sports facilities and football pitches as part of the planning permissions for 298 dwellings in Drayton Parish. One of the developments, known as Walnut Meadow, also includes land transferred to the Drayton Parish Council with space for sports pitches, a pavilion and a mugger. Section 106 funding of £278,860 towards new sports pitches and a cricket wicket in this location was approved in December of last year. This second phase will further enhance the area through Drayton Parish Council's proposal to create the mugger. This application being part of a series which will eventually see Walnut Meadow as a modern sporting venue, fully owned and operated by Drayton Parish Council. The 2024 Vale of Whitehall Leisure Facilities Strategy recommends supporting the development of the new mugger planned in Drayton. This project will provide extra facilities for the expanding population of Drayton Parish and beyond, providing modern facilities which should encourage a wide, diverse group of participants. Again, as with the previous item, a legal agreement will be put in place to govern the release of funds, and if agreed today, this decision will be taken to the full council meeting on the 16th of July to approve the budget as required by the financial procedure rules. Again, Mark Hewer and Dave Cookson are happy to answer any questions that I can't address. Any questions, comments or observations?
I don't know, I'll let someone else go. You're going to repeat what I said before. Okay. And just say Drayton rather than Steventon.
Very good. I like those sort of speeches. Councillor Portion.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really delighted to see this come forward because it shows what we can do when everything meshes together, everything fits with Drayton's neighbourhood plan, our local plan, the leisure facilities strategy, and it all coming together to deliver facilities for a growing community in a timely manner. It's brilliant to see it coming through, and I'm very, very pleased to support it.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I just add, perhaps I should have said it for the last scheme as well, that I think we should give credit to the parishes here, because there's an awful lot of work that they put in bring the scheme forward, and it's not easy that all volunteers and these are obviously worked up schemes that parishes put together. And it's deemed to be okay by our officers, so
yeah,
good things to do.
A very, very good point. Yeah, so I mean, I think whilst we're giving out thanks, I think perhaps more so with the previous application than this, we also ought to thank the developers, because they offer the money, or they are asked to pay the money for specific things, and it's a flexibility that enables us to use within the spirit of what the money was set aside for. And I think that's really key, because sometimes we could be ring fenced down to such a minutia that we actually are not able to deliver. So it's good to see, and I'm very thankful for the developers where they do support us on those requests. So I think we've had enough discussion then. We've commented on that. So again, I'd like to propose that we accept this and recommend it goes to full council. May I have a seconder? Councillor Paulsham, and are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, so now I get a chance for to catch my breath. So we're on to item 9 now, which is an update for the joint housing allocations policy. And Councillor Corporate, in your new role.
Indeed, thank you. I am without the internet still, so bear with me to a certain extent. Before I actually introduce the paper, I just wanted to remind everybody that Vale does face major challenges in housing, particularly affordability to either to rent or to buy. One of the most expensive areas in the country. But it's also worth reflecting, I think, that the Vale itself has done extremely well in meeting those challenges. The level of affordable housing that we've been able to deliver from housing developments has been exceptional, and we're one of the top councils in the country for dealing with homelessness. And that's thanks to Paul Fielding, who I think is on the call, head of housing and his team. So thanks to them, and indeed thanks to them for bringing this report forward, and in particular all the consultation that they've done, both with the community and with councillors in both councils. So this report sets out proposed changes to the joint housing allocations policy and seeks cabinet approval to adopt the updated policy. The council has a statutory duty to publish a policy for determining priorities for the allocation of social housing. And the current housing allocations policy was adopted in February 2019, 6 years ago, and requires updating to reflect current legislation and local housing priorities. And 4 main changes proposed are, firstly, increasing the income and savings threshold for inclusion on the housing register from an aggregate number of 60,000 to 80,000, to raising the rent arrears threshold for disqualification from the housing register from £500 to £1,000. There's some amendments to the unacceptable behaviour exclusion criteria and disqualification period. And finally, the increasing the priority banding for homeless households in temporary accommodation. As I said, the proposed changes have been considered by officers, members, stakeholders, and at the public consultation. And we received, to my mind, a really good response. 980 responses were received in the public consultation, with a clear majority in agreement with each of the changes I've just outlined. By adopting the proposed amendments, the council will continue to have a robust, fair and legally compliant housing allocations policy. And subject to approval now, the aim is to implement the updated policy by the 1st of November this year.
Thank you today. Thank you. Any comment, observation or questions? Okay, I think a few of us were at the we had a workshop, did we not, to talk about this, and we spent quite some time discussing each of those 4 options and trying to understand the rationale. And I think my first thoughts when I saw the increases in the amount of income and savings from 60 to 80,000, well, okay, that sounds quite high. Actually, I don't know how many people have got that in terms of savings. However, if you think now sort of the average wage, it has gone up, and people do have some savings, and it's very easy, I think, to fall into that literally just £65,000 savings, and therefore not be able to be eligible for the register. So I think as the economy has changed, I think it is appropriate that we review it, and I think 80,000 sounds from the discussion we had as being quite reasonable. And I think that also then goes also for the rent arrears, where we think your typical rent of properties now has gone up, and so it would be very easy to be more than £500 in arrear. So again, I think it's appropriate that it was increased to 1,000. And I think if I remember back to the workshop, all members, I think we were all overall content with those recommendations were good.
If I may,
yeah.
sorry, just to respond to that, you're quite right that obviously inflation has taken up income for 6 years, but it's also, of course, that housing prices have increased dramatically.
Sure.
And what you could buy 6 years ago,
Yep.
it's very different.
Sadly, yeah.
Today. And yes, 80,000 does sound a lot of money, doesn't it? But if you think about it, if you've got £20,000 worth of savings and £60,000 joint income into a household, you're still going to really struggle to get a mortgage. And likewise, the rent arrears, £1,000, it's just doubling. But that is less than 1 month's average rent for a family property in this district.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very short period, although it's can be seen to be a large amount.
It is.
I was going to say,
Councillor
I
Pickard.
was just going to say, it's also worth noting that this increase has got to last the life of the that this applies for.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
it's
so the
looking
policy is
to the
reviewed
future
again.
as well.
Yeah.
There's no point putting it up by 5,000 now and then finding by the end of the period of the policy that it's inappropriate again.
Yeah, good point. Okay. So again, it looks like we have no further comments. So we've got the proposal that, for the recommendations. I will read these out actually. Just so the recommendation is that Cabinet A approve the updated joint housing allocations policy, and B, subject to approval of the policy, delegate authority to the head of housing and the environment to make minor amendments to the policy in the future as required. So got the proposal. Any second there? Councillor Smith, and are we all agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. And item 10 then is at the heart of the Vale, the annual delivery plan 2025-2026. Before I ask Councillor Fortune to introduce this, at some point, perhaps if maybe Candida or Councillor Fortune would like to give a bit of a resume of what was said at scrutiny, because Vale Scrutiny took this paper at the beginning of the week. So they felt that there was no requirement for them to come and deliver that report direct to us, but it's appropriate for us to recognise the fact that it has gone to scrutiny. Councillor Fortune, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm delighted to have this item to bring to you. This is where the rubber hits the road on our council plan. It's all about where stuff actually happens, and I know a lot of the items within our delivery plan will be very familiar, because it all comes back to our 4 priorities, and we've lived and breathed those over the last 2 years and helped refine them. And so this is where it actually gets to. We can see the golden thread that goes through not just our thinking and our priorities, but also our day-to-day operations. What I will highlight to you all is that it's now been through scrutiny, as our chair has just indicated, and there is one point that I will bring out to explain one specific recommendation, which I'm completely happy with and very happy to take on board. And that is looking at our actual paper with the individual points being icons allocated to show whether we're doing something directly, working in partnership, or trying to influence. And I'm glad to say we're actually seeing more direct action and working in partnership and influencing. I'm always put in mind of the fisherman that was asked how many fishing, well, not very many, but I've influenced quite a lot. But scrutiny's very specific recommendation is that they weren't too keen on the icon that was used for the direct action. They didn't like the sort of raised clenched fist, and thought that was maybe a little too strident, a little too political, maybe.
Very risky nowadays.
Indeed, yes. We don't find ourselves bound for some reason. However, I have been discussing this with officers, and our comms team are going to work over the presentation of the annual delivery plan and find ways of putting a better icon in, and that the look and feel will be more appropriate. So I'm completely happy with that recommendation, and I hope more reach that. What I will also highlight is the reporting has actually seen an awful lot of work through the senior management team, a lot of check and challenge there. And if you remember our old corporate plan and our quarterly reporting on that, how so many items were down as the narrative about progress, which, yeah, there's a lot of detail there, and hats off to officers who bust a gut to produce this every quarter. But I know it was a huge amount of work. Now, reporting wherever humanly possible is numerical. So it can say, we promised that we were going to deliver 20 homes that are affordable rent in this period. Did we reach 20? Did we reach 15? Did we reach 22? So statistically, we are reporting, and you can see in our mock-up of reporting, we're going to have a lot more live stuff where you can spot trends, you can filter stuff, so you can get the information you need. I'm always put in mind of the principle data is beautiful because you can tell a story there. And rather than have officers have to go away manually to collate all this stuff, which becomes a huge operation if you're doing it every quarter, every 6 months, by far the default way will be to pull it directly from our own internal systems. We have invested quite heavily in business intelligence software that will interrogate our own systems and pull it directly out. And where we find that we can pull stuff from systems more rapidly than the 6 monthly or annual reporting that we promise in the annual delivery plan, we will, if we find we can do it more regularly, we will do so. So we're looking at that. Happy to go on at length about this. I can tell it's something I'm rather passionate about. We do have Tim Arui from our head of policy and programs here to pick up any points that I've forgotten about, glossed over, or drastically misinterpreted. But please do ask me anything on this. See, and I want to pay particular tribute to Tim and the policy and our team for developing this. The team have worked hard on this, and we can be proud of it.
Any comments? Yeah, Councillor Paulson.
A comment and then a question. I mean, overall, I think this is really good. It's really clear. It sets out in a really transparent way what a lot of our specific objectives are, and I completely agree with the comments Councillor Paulson has just made about how much stronger this is in terms of having very specific things that we can measure. There's always a slight danger with that approach because there are important things you can't always measure in numbers, but in terms of being able to see that we are getting things done, this is really useful. And I think it fits in well with making it easier for us to explain to the public what we are doing on their behalf on a regular basis. So overall, absolutely in favour of this. Thing is really positive, and also just looking at the sheer range of things we're doing. We are a relatively small district council, but we are achieving things on a huge number of fronts, and looking at the progress we've already made on things like decarbonisation, and with a lot more to come. These are things that I think we as a cabinet and as a council and as our team of staff can be really proud of. My question is just about the time frame for some of the reporting. Quite a lot are down to be an annual report. That means that in the lifetime of this council, we'll get to look at them twice. Some of the ones that are down as annual do look to me to be things that we will presumably have figures on more frequently than that might. Well, that's a part question, part suggestion is can we just go through and do another check and look at whether some of the annuals can be converted to quarterlies or half yearlies, because some of the numbers are quite small, and if we get to a year on and then find out we haven't hit them, I'm sure people will realise in the meantime that they were delayed. But in terms of transparency, we're halfway through before we find out there's an issue. So that would be my question stroke suggestion.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree, and I would reinforce what I said in my introduction, that where we can move to a more rapid reporting cycle, we will do. This is it's very much a mock-up of how things work. Our first reporting will actually be very much to provide a baseline, and we'll then be able to assess where we're going from there. So yes, I believe it will be possible. Timothy may have some more comments about how much more we can deliver on that, but yeah, I think I always like more information rather than less, unless you get to the point where you're actually snowed under with a blizzard of information. Information where it actually can lead to action is the key.
So we'll talk to Councillor Smith and then I can see.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna welcome this and support the comments that have already been made by Councillor Fawcett and Councillor Fulsham. It's really positive. I dialed into the scrutiny meeting to sort of listen to the discussion as well. So I was really pleased you picked up about the icon and the fact that this is kind of a draft and it will look a bit different when it's the final version, which is I was going to mention that if you didn't, so you got ahead of me there, so that's good. I wanted to just clarify again, when I was listening to the scrutiny discussion, I'm not sure it came up, but the time frame for this, I'm assuming it's financial year. So that was one of my quick fire questions. So it's 25 to 26. Is this the kind of like April to March year we're working on?
No, not actually.
Oh.
The plan is that we will be reporting July through to June.
Okay.
It fits quite nicely with the financial year. There's enough of it falling in coincidentally to make it easier to develop them in tandem with budget setting. So it works, but it doesn't. It's not a direct drop in.
So maybe that's something that could just be again with the design and the final version to make it clear the time frame. That would be something to put in the mix, which I'm sure
it will be on
done. The other query I had, it was more specific about one of the lines rather than the reporting as a whole, and that was around neighbourhood planning. So obviously we've got in there about delivering neighbourhood plans. I know we don't have like a target as such, do we? It's like the data will be a kind of factual report of where we are now and what we're doing in the future. But because of recent government announcements about funding for neighbourhood planning being pulled, I saw that and it kind of jumped out at me as like, oh, is this going to be a problem for us? So that might be too specific for this discussion, but I just wanted to flag that up as a potential issue.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. And yes, you are right that funding for neighbourhood planning, or one specific funding stream for neighbourhood planning, has had a huge cut through the spending review that I know officers are working out at the moment, all the consequences of that spending review. But this was specifically for money that was channeled through locality towards, it was a block grant for each neighbourhood planning group, allowed them to fund studies and work that they'd need for putting together their neighbourhood plan. It doesn't affect the resources that this council puts in towards neighbourhood plans. And we will continue putting that in. And there are actually further things that we're doing. We are, together with my colleagues from South Oxford District Council, there's been some work done on template policies and packs of advice that it's not a one size fits all, but it's a drop in that say, you might find a policy like this would work in your context. And we've developed that as a resource, and we will get to the point where it can be offered to neighbourhood plan groups across the Vale. And so we're still supporting it. The team, I'm phenomenally proud of the neighbourhood plan. They work really hard and they relate to groups across the district at various different stages, from consultations on forming a neighbourhood plan, bringing it forward, and then a few years later, the neighbourhood plan reviews. It's an ongoing process, and it is bringing planning decision making down to the smallest feasible area. It's very much about bringing stuff back to our residents, and a good neighbourhood plan will be there, having equal weight to our joint local plan and our joint local plans in place, because it will address the specific needs in that neighbourhood, at sort of parish level, town level, whatever. So yeah, we're still supporting it. We think they're really good. Obviously, there is a huge chunk gone out of the funding for it, but I hope that some of the resources that we're able to do in a different way will help address some of that.
Okay, thank
Don't
you.
address your question.
Yeah, thanks. That's reassuring that, you know, we're looking for other ways and sort of assessing the impact of that. So thank you.
Councillor Crawford, and then I'll come to you.
Yeah, I also attended the scrutiny meeting, not in person but online, and I found it quite instructive. And I listened to the discussion about the raised fist emoji, or whatever it's called, where we've been successful in delivering something, and it maybe can be seen to be a bit aggressive. So I just wondered if we instead could have maybe an orange diamond that said "winning here." Items that we deliver successfully. I'll leave that thought with you. I don't expect a response.
Might just be on the line, I think.
Do we have to have a vote on that?
I wasn't proposing.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gaskell.
Yeah, my question is about accountability. So on here, I'm sort of thinking specifically about our roles as cabinet members. So I'm looking at this and I can see, you know, one of our areas, our priorities, action on climate change and nature recovery, maybe that falls under my portfolio, and there's a number of others that probably quite clearly fit with other people. How do you see the cabinet members' role in delivering these? As cabinet members, should this form part of our discussions with our in our meetings with heads of service and things like that?
Thank you, Councillor Gascoigne. I see this as very much a working document to inform your discussions, and how you use it and address it in your meetings with as portfolio holders is very much up to you. I know we're used to, when we get quarterly reporting, to be asked for comments back before it comes together as a cabinet report. So I would expect nothing to come as a surprise to any cabinet members in this. If it does, then something has gone wrong. So yeah, but how you use it in your discussions is very down to your own style in looking after your portfolio. It's designed to actually make life easier. It's not a big stick to hit anybody over the head with. It's supposed to be enabling good agile working. I know we'll hear more and more about agile working, and certainly the delivery team are keen to get that sort of level of transformation out around the different parts of it in the council. So I hope that it's going to be a good thing, not something to fear or think, oh no, there's this strange thing that now exists and we've got to fit all that goes into that. It should actually draw out the dreaded golden threads through, so you can see not just what we're doing, but why and how we do it. It should fit through business as usual, but also our priorities that we clearly expressed it in the council plan. So that's how I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point, and I think that work that we were doing, looking at for those who've changed portfolios, looking at where we think the key items are. I mean, we use the word projects, but they're not all projects. Where we think they're important items. If there's something in here that's not on that list, then we probably missed something. You know, something's missing. Equally, if there's something in our minds that we think is important, but it's not in the plan, then again, it doesn't mean it's not valid, but maybe it isn't such a high priority. So yeah, I think this is a really good tool. And what I like about it is it's simplified, not simplistic, and those two are very different meanings. So I think when you have information portrayed as this is, it's more likely that people are going to read it, and it's more likely, therefore, that we can do something about it who keep on track of it. When you have to read through, I can't remember how long the reports were, but there must have been close to 100 pages, weren't they? You know, of text. It was very, very hard to actually take on board really what progress was being made on. Okay. So have we any more comments on this, or can I go straight to the recommendations? So I'm assuming that Councillor Fawcett is going to propose that we sorry, Fortune, sorry. I was looking at you and then that we approve the annual delivery plan for 25-26, which is Appendix 1, which is underpinned by the Council Plan 2025 to 2029. So are you happy to propose that?
I'm
Councillor
very happy to propose.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? So Councillor Smith, are we all agreed?
Agreed.
Great, thank you. So I would like to thank all the officers for the work that's gone into these. You know, we should never underestimate how much effort goes into producing the report and the underlying detail of it that doesn't always appear in the report, but backs up the wording in there. So, for those that are online, thank you very much indeed. And Suzanne, perhaps you can take our thanks back for those that are not online. I think if we come back to the very valid point about how frequently we report, I think it's a very good point. I think what we do need to understand though is the implication of so doing, because I'm assuming the work programme, the work plan for officers has been set, and if we are going to increase the frequency, I would just like us to understand whether there's any impact on that. And it could be that it's more important than something else, in which case we can have that discussion, I think. But if it's something that can be done automatically, which is what we're aiming for, then I suspect there's actually quite marginal increased workload. But if we can get that. So any final comments from anybody? Or Candida, I should have said, was there anything else on the last one from scrutiny that you felt we didn't talk about?
No, I feel like because there were several members who attended
Exactly.
to watch, I feel like everyone got the gist. So,
Okay, thank you. Nick.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Just a reminder, one of the things that did come out of the scrutiny was there was a couple of mentions of local government reorganisation and the fact that that may well have impacts upon prioritisation, strategic prioritisation. What I think was also mentioned was that this could be a tool for cabinet members to use to support you in having lighter feet, because local government reorganisation is going to impact upon your priorities in various ways. And so just to mention that, I also took away an action from that, which wasn't an action for members, but an action for me to meet with the chair of your scrutiny committee, which I've started to do, about the ways in which that prioritisation can achieve greater visibility for all members and then onwards to the public, obviously. So you've already one or two of you already mentioned that these things do change over time, but just because it came up in scrutiny and because they were concerned about it and focused on it, I thought I need to just remind you that is something that you will also need to be taking into account when establishing how you manage priorities and how you engage with your strategic officers on those things, to make sure that decisions are being made on the best evidence at any particular point. Chair, thank you for letting me interrupt. And I'm sorry it's a little bit of a sideways interruption, but I thought it ought to be mentioned.
No, not at all. I mean, we've effectively almost pretty much come to the end of the meeting, so that was a good way of rounding up. And thank you very much for your contribution, both at scrutiny and here. And I think I have seen some notes from you, and I think the government's decision on Section 24 will give us better guidance about what we can and what we cannot do for LGR. I think it's Section 24. I use the right term? Regulation 24.
Very, very well done. That's a B+ pass, Chair. Okay,
close enough. We'll stop while I'm ahead. I think once we've got that, then we'll be much better placed to be able to understand, what is the art of the possible, and clearly scrutiny will have some role in that, in helping us and keeping us to account. So Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Okay. So thanks so much indeed, colleagues. Thank you very much, everyone who's online. And when your weekend arrives, I hope you have a good time. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes.